You think slipping on a banana peel is the dumbest way to go? Or maybe you're worried about a Wile E. Coyote-style anvil falling from the sky. That's cartoon logic. Real life is way more creative. The historical figures we're talking about today didn't just die. They exited stage left in a blaze of such spectacular face-palming stupidity that it deserves a standing ovation. They wrote the textbook on how to become a bizarre historical footnote. Welcome to history's ultimate Darwin Awards. We're counting down 5 brilliant, powerful, and important people who met their end in the most bafflingly absurd ways imaginable. From killer turtles to lethal politeness, this is a masterclass in how not to go out. So, please, watch your step, and let's get started. First up, ancient Greece. Meet Aeschylus. This guy was the Shakespeare of his day, the father of Greek tragedy. He wrote epic plays full of drama, fate, and heroes meeting grim ends. And in a twist of irony worthy of his own writing, his own death was the most absurd tragedy of all. See, Aeschylus had been given a prophecy. He would be killed by a falling object. Understandably paranoid, he spent most of his time outdoors, away from buildings, walls, or anything that could possibly fall on him. He figured he'd outsmart fate. But fate has a weird sense of humor, and in this case, it also had an eagle. One day, while Aeschylus was chilling in an open field, an eagle flew overhead. The eagle had just caught a tortoise and was looking for a rock to drop it on to crack its shell. It looked down and saw something perfect. A large, shiny, bald, dome-shaped head. Before Aeschylus could even wonder why a tortoise was getting bigger, bam! The eagle dropped its lunch, cracking both the tortoiseshell and the skull of the greatest playwright in Greece. It was history's first and only successful airstrike by tortoise. The prophecy was right. It just forgot to mention the turtle. Fast forward to the 16th century. Tycho Brahe was a rock star astronomer. A Danish nobleman with a prosthetic nose made of brass, he mapped the stars with unprecedented accuracy. He was brilliant, but his downfall wasn't a cosmic event. It was a social one. In 1591, Tycho was at a massive, swanky banquet in Prague. He was drinking a lot. As the feast dragged on for hours, nature called, urgently. But there was a problem. 16th century etiquette dictated that it was a grave insult to leave the table before your host did. Tycho was trapped. He could either insult a powerful nobleman or hold it in. He chose politeness. You can just imagine the internal monologue. Smile and wave, Tycho. Don't think about the rising tide. Don't think about the Niagara Falls building inside you. He sat there, sweating, while the host probably told yet another boring story. He made it through the dinner, but the damage was done. His bladder, stretched beyond its limits, had ruptured, leading to a severe infection. A few days later, the man who charted the heavens died because he was too polite to go to the bathroom. He discovered supernovas, but in the end, he couldn't discover the toilet. Meet King Charles II of Navarre, a 14th century French royal known as Charles the Bad. And while he was a pretty nasty guy in life, his death was just plain silly. In his old age, Charles was suffering from a debilitating illness that left him frail and immobile. His royal physicians prescribed a truly bizarre treatment. He was to be wrapped from head to toe in cloths soaked in brandy, essentially turning him into a human alcohol wipe. Each night, a servant would wrap him up and then sew the final stitch to keep him snug. One evening, the servant finished her task and had a length of thread left over. Now, a normal person might have reached for a pair of scissors, but this servant decided to take a shortcut. She pulled out a lit candle to burn off the excess thread. You can guess what happened next. The brandy-soaked king went up in flames like the world's most flammable mummy. Servants rushed in to douse him, but it was too late. He lingered in agony for days before finally succumbing to his horrific burns. He was known as Charles the Bad, but his last moments were definitely well done. Our next guest comes from the modern era. In 1912, an Austrian-born French tailor named Franz Reichelt was convinced he had invented the future, a wearable parachute suit. He was the flying tailor, and he was going to change the world. To prove his invention worked, he needed a dramatic demonstration. He got permission to test his suit from the Eiffel Tower. Everyone assumed he'd use a dummy. Franz had other ideas. He was going to be the dummy. On a freezing February morning, in front of a crowd of journalists and a film crew, he stood on the first platform of the tower. His friends begged him not to do it. The police advised against it. He ignored them all. He was confident he was about to make history. And he did, just not in the way he intended. He jumped. For a terrifying second, the parachute suit flapped uselessly around him like a cape. And then he plummeted straight down, carving a small crater in the frozen ground at the base of the tower. His invention was a breakthrough, all right. A breakthrough the hard, unforgiving earth. And finally, we go to a courtroom in 1871 Ohio. Clement Vallandigham was a lawyer and politician defending a man accused of murder in a bar fight. His entire defense strategy rested on one argument. The victim hadn't been murdered at all, but had accidentally shot himself while drawing his pistol from his pocket. To prove this to the jury, Clement decided a dramatic reenactment was in order. He grabbed a pistol from the evidence table to demonstrate his theory. Believing the gun was unloaded, he put it in his pocket and began to show the jury how the victim might have snagged it while standing up. And then, to really sell the point, he drew the gun and shot himself. The courtroom fell silent. He had, with fatal accuracy, proven his point perfectly. The gun went off just as he said it could have. Clement Vallandigham died the next day from his wound, but his demonstration was so convincing that his client was acquitted and walked free. He remains the only lawyer in history to successfully prove his point by dying. He won the case, but sadly, he wasn't alive to collect his fee. So there you have it. From deadly tortoises to lethal politeness, and lawyers with terrible gun safety. These stories prove that it doesn't matter how smart, powerful, or brilliant you are. The universe always has a bizarre, cosmic banana peel waiting for you around the corner. History isn't just written by the victors. It's also written by the people who died in the most ridiculous way possible. Which of these deaths do you think was the absolute dumbest? Cast your vote in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into unhinged history. We'll see you next time.